Morning, folks. Good to see so many smiling faces this early again. So on behalf of Fujitsu and Juniper Networks, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce this morning's keynote speaker. It's also a real honor for me personally because this is somebody I've gotten to know and work closely with over the past couple of years, and I've seen firsthand his passion and commitment to the people of the city of Fairlawn. Ernie brings more than 23 years of local government experience to his role as the Deputy Director of the Public Service for the city of Fairlawn, a community of 7,500 residents in Northeast Ohio that hosts over 30,000 daily visitors. In his role, Ernie is responsible for managing the city's infrastructure and delivering all of the city's services. He's also the liaison for all the utilities in the city, including stormwater, sanitary sewer, public water, electric, and gas. And most recently, his vision and leadership are helping to ensure the city's future prosperity through the realization of Fairlawn Gig and the deployment of ubiquitous broadband connectivity in Fairlawn. Fairlawn Gig is a municipal broadband utility designed to deliver affordable gigabit fiber and wireless connectivity across the entire city. That means broadband to every home and to every business. Ernie was instrumental in the planning, construction, operation, and promotion of Fairlawn Gig's broadband services, where the community views broadband access as an essential utility, every bit as important as paved roads and electric utilities. And so to tell you more about his unique foray into the world of municipal broadband, I'm pleased to present a friend and a true municipal broadband champion, Mr. Ernie Staten.
Thanks, Eric. I'm sure most of you know and heard from him that we've been working with Fujitsu for quite some time now, so really I appreciate what Eric said. What a beautiful place this is for a conference, huh? I've never been to Colorado before in my life, and coming up here, this place is just beautiful. My son is with me today, and I think he's going to end up moving here, so I guess I'll probably spend a lot of time up here at some point in my life. As Eric said, a little introduction for the city. City of Fairlawn is 7,500 people during the day, and or 7,500 during the night, and during the day we're 30 to 40,000 people. So we found out right away that a municipal broadband project was something that was needed to keep that 40,000 people coming out through the day and keeping those businesses here in the city. So a brief agenda. No one likes to see slides read, so we'll just move right on. So Northeast Ohio is where we're located, so we're just to the west of the city of Akron. And Akron, you probably all know Akron from one thing. LeBron James came from the city of Akron, and he actually lives in the town next over from the city. He lives in Bath. He's right against the JED area, and you'll find out in this presentation, it's not only the city that's doing this, we're also doing it in the JED. So the JED district is an area of economic development that we teamed with Bath and the city of Akron. And it was a water project is really what it was, and because we received taxes from them, then we were able to also take this broadband project into them. So we're a small city, we're 5 square miles. Really in our city, we have a great mix of commercial, residential, office, retail is the commercial, and we have a lot of high-end offices there in the city. We have the Schulman's, which is a worldwide leader in plastics. We also have Omnova in our area that's a plastics leader. So that goes to the style of city that we have here. We're doing very well economically, and I think that's something that is important to all of this broadband project, that the city needs to also do well economically and continue to want to do well economically. Only one other thing to add, a lot of cities they spur just from their location. The city actually spurred from a group of individuals in the 60s, came in and planned out the community. So we have a nice main street that takes care of most of the taxes. We have a very low tax base for our residents, and the businesses really are the ones that are taking care of it. So as Eric said, this is the kind of stuff that comes out of my department. We handle the street repair. We have standards that are higher than the ODOT standards that are out there. So that should tell you something right away on what we want to do with this project. Our street repair is done without taxes. There's no assessment for that street repair. The next item that comes out of my department is snow removal. So at Northeast Ohio, we have lake effect. And in that lake effect, it's very hard to handle snow. So I know all of you up here understand snow, but what happens to us is we don't get any forecast on it. It blows off the lake and hits our area. We've always been very, very good at snow removal, and just here lately I've tried to make a real effort to say that every road is important as our main road, and the idea behind that is to get the people to Market. So Market Street is the name of our main road, but the idea is just getting people out shopping, so on and so forth. And then this is something that we used in our RFP, which I'll talk about the RFP here in just a little bit, but we have a compactor in the city. We're one of the only cities that I know of that has a compactor, and the idea is we have this building where people bring their trash to us, so we see a lot of people bringing trash in, and Mercedes and Cadillacs and so on and so forth. They bring the trash to us. We then take care of the trash either by the compactor or by recycling. And now, obviously, we're here to talk about this world-class fiber and wireless network. So the vision behind Fairlawn Gig, just a short little summary of what we did. It was like a three-headed monster at the time. The mayor was overseas, and he was in economic development conferences overseas, and those conferences, every company said the same thing to him. You have great water. The land is cheap in the United States. We'd really like to move there. What do you have for broadband capability? So that was going on with him. I had a personal struggle of my own that we couldn't get enough bandwidth at our office. We couldn't get enough bandwidth at our homes. And I actually went to Best Buy, and I'm sure you've all done that, and an 18-year-old kid says, hey, you don't need some special device. You need more bandwidth. So that was going on at the same time, and then a business owner in a Class A office area on Embassy Parkway came to us and said his people, and he owns, I think, 22 buildings on that parkway, our people can't work during the day because the incumbent provider can't give us enough bandwidth. So all that was going on at the same time. This really just shows where we were at. So we were 85th out of 250 cities in the state, and the state was ranked 48th. So we were as close to bottom of the barrel as we possibly could before we started this project. And you can see we were paying some of the highest costs at the same time with no bandwidth. So this really just talks about, what we had in our town. So we have Time Warner as our cable provider, now Spectrum. We had Frontier and DSL, Frontier and AT&T as DSL. And we had early engagements with the incumbents asking them to improve this broadband capability. And at the time, we were considered on the edge. So we have this big city, Akron, that we're near, and they considered us on the edge and said that it was going to be quite some time before they could build out to us. So Fairlawn Gig in general, the idea is to lift the community. It's not just, it's not deal chasing. So what we found is there's a lot of people that want to talk about how can I get the best deal. government can't do that. We can't work in the same level that everyone else does, that we can make a deal for somebody and not for another group. It's an entire community, and we can only give pricing and stick to that same pricing. So again, we're not chasing deals, we're trying to lift the community. And the idea, and it's the same for everyone here, I'm sure, you're trying to retain the jobs that you have, you're trying to retain the residents that you have, and at the same time build an area where you can bring in new companies, build more buildings, bring in new residents. Hopefully, it would take, everyone here probably has an area of their community that the housing is slipping. Doesn't mean that it's going downhill, it just means it's slipping a little bit. Well, we did too, and this was a way that we thought could help with that slip, that we could come in and we could bring this great network in, and the young entrepreneurs would come into our town, the businesses that would come into town, people would move in, and maybe take care of some of those community areas. So at the mayor's request, we had to take care of businesses as residents equally. So in doing that, our idea was that we would bring this in and we would have the Big Bang Theory. We would come in and we would go by everyone. We would pass every home, we would pass every business, and we would connect to anyone that asked to be connected to. So, a couple of things I hear in these conferences all the time. One of them is, how do we get it off the ground? Well, the first way to get it off the ground is political will. So your mayors and your councilmen, they're the ones that you have to get on your side to make this happen. Without that political will, it doesn't go anywhere. And then, in our case, we spent 2 years of planning to get this off the ground, and we're under construction this year. And that really, we started the whole process probably 4 years ago, but it took us 2 years of serious planning to get there. And in that serious planning, you also need to know that there's going to be some costs in that planning to make that happen. So I'll explain exactly what we did. We went out initially, like everyone else in these latest RFPs and RFIs, we went out thinking that we would get a public-private partnership. We design, build, maintain, operate, finance. And what we found was that there's no magic bullet out there for the financing. So what we did with the financing is we went to bonding. So again, the city was doing well economically. We were able to do this by general fund bonding, and we did it through it's through the Port Authority is how we work the bonds, and almost every county has a port authority of some sort, even if you don't have an airport or a train station in your town. And that's how we handled the bonding. So we knew that we couldn't get a special finance. We initially went out and asked for that, and what we got back was someone could do everything except for the financing. They could do the financing, but it wasn't any more special than what we could do on our own. When we put the RFP out, the biggest or the most difficult thing to understand was the fact that the city wanted to own this utility. And speaking with the incumbents, they did not want us to own the utility because it was very difficult for them to understand how they would work within a network that the city would own. And private industry doesn't always understand how government works, and that would be it's just a difficult situation between the two of us. So we also, in asking for this public-private partnership, we needed a retail provider. So I think everyone understands the wholesale provider piece, but we needed a retail provider. And the reason why we needed that is we've really taken care of our residents in the city. So the street repair, I told you already that there's no assessment. We take care of them in every way. In a street repair, my guys will carry groceries into the house. So I knew that we could not get this project off the ground if we weren't going to be the retail provider to show that we would give that same type of customer service. So Fairlawn Gig, it's a build to Fairlawn and the JED, and it passes every home and every business. We're also doing a comprehensive wireless network that we're working on right now, but the idea behind that wireless network is we will have a net around the city, and I told you before that we have 30 to 40,000 visitors daily. Well, those visitors can take advantage of our wireless network, and what we hope to do is we hope to be able to provide 30 meg up and down wireless, and they'll be able to take that as a service, and it will keep, so I'm going to talk about this quite a bit, but it will keep the people in our town. So if you had this, you wouldn't want to use your data on your phone or on your device. So maybe you'll shop in our town, maybe you'll eat in our town, maybe you'll go to the mall in our town, and you'll stay here. So obviously the soft costs on that are that the city is going to get taxes from all that. Our businesses are going to thrive. It's all good for the city. Many people don't understand those soft costs, and I'll talk about them more later. The other thing we did with wireless is early adopters. We were able to do a point-to-point link. We have a large tower in our city. That point-to-point link was to get people up and running that were coming off contracts. So we heard from a lot of businesses, I'm coming off my contract. How do I handle coming off that contract? Well, this is a way that we could get them service, and we guarantee 50 by 50, but they're really all getting over 100 by 100. So that service it's just been fantastic for us. We do the world-class internet, so we do have 3 upstream providers, and we have a world-class NOC in Richardson, Texas. Again, in the RFP, this was really, the business model that we were after. We were talking, the respondent would handle every piece of this build, and it ended up that there were certain things that couldn't happen, really what the biggest thing that couldn't happen is the financing. We decided to take the financing on ourselves, and it just made life easier for us all the way around. Contributions to the RFP from the city. So this is something that every city, every county, any government should be thinking about is how do we leverage the right-of-way and any other infrastructure that you have. So our infrastructure was buildings, was the tower, was tornado sirens, and obviously the right-of-way. In my city, we own all the right-of-way. So we don't have utility easements. Their utilities fall within the city right-of-way. We have generally a 50-foot right-of-way on a 25-foot road, 12.5 feet behind the curb in each way. That's really where we were laying this fiber project. And then, in the slide here, talking about negotiating with First Energy. So First Energy is the electric provider in our area. Obviously, we were going to need their poles for some of the wireless. So right from the very beginning, we engaged with them instead of waiting until we had some project off the ground and then go to them and ask for help, because that's a stall for everyone. We didn't have that stall because we actually worked with them from the very beginning. And then something I should add is what we did in our city was we formed a Blue Ribbon Committee, and that Blue Ribbon Committee, we met with them weekly to explain where we were in the project, whether it was in the RFP stage, whether it was in the planning stage, or even after we were off the ground. And I know this is something that is, in this slide, something that everyone, anyways, builders always talk about, the permitting. So I handle the permitting in the city of Fairlawn, so obviously I'm able to expedite the permitting. So I think some of the municipalities here, maybe what you want to think about is that construction always runs through a service department. The engineering is always through a service department. Maybe it makes sense that it would be service directors that actually build this project, and not the IT people that don't have anything to do with construction, or even the business development people. Obviously, they're necessary for the project, but maybe the first goal is to figure out how to handle the construction for any of these projects. So in the RFP, we had some great responses, and we had 10 people respond to us from all over the country, and what we learned out of that was we went about it backwards. We should have had an engineering design done. We should have had all our feasibility studies done. And here we were asking for someone to answer the RFP and handle all that. And I think that's, that should be good advice going forward for everyone. That's where the money that you'd put up front, I think what makes sense to me is you would start the process with an engineering design. So it goes to my idea of that a service department would handle this. It's just like a civil project. If you want to build a road, the first thing you do is you put a design together for the road. But I think, and naturally what a lot of people are doing is they're putting out these RFPs saying, please build this, and they're not giving any instruction. By the way, in the state of Ohio, and I'm sure it's this way in many other states, but I don't know this, in the state of Ohio, anything over $50,000 I have to publicly bid. So to publicly bid it, I need a design. No one can build this without a design. So we put the RFP out, and that was the first thing we realized that we made a mistake on. We need to do an engineering design. So we did an EDC, and we came up with a game plan. I think I already talked quite a bit about the financing, but that's where we were at with financing. And then, again, the hard thing in the RFP, sitting down and negotiating with each group, the hard thing to figure out was that the city wanted to own it and run the service. So again, the EDC, that was our engineering design contract, and really it's the game plan. So what I'll say about it is we went into it thinking that we wanted the engineering piece, and we also wanted to know how to run the business. So we asked for this large document, which we received, and Fujitsu put it together for us, and it's a great design. So what I can do with it, or anyone else could do with it, is we could take it out to the general public and say, build this. Now, we went through the Port Authority. We had some different ways to go about building it. We were able to say that this was a design build, and we stuck with the same company that did the EDC to do the build. But what I'm telling you is you could do this design, and even if you had to shelf it for 6 months, then you could take it out to the world, and someone could build off of that design package. Again, the funding, we ended up that we funded it. We did it through the Port Authority, and really the Port Authority has changed their name in Summit County. It's funny that this is Summit County. We're in Summit County in Ohio. They're now the DFA in Summit County, the old Port Authority, and they have the ability to build outside of the normal codes for bidding out projects. So that was one of the reasons why we went in that direction, was it made sense to us to look at this as a design build. And we thought we had a partner that could do the entire thing, and we wanted to stick with that partner. The EDC was a good a preempt to the build. We learned from one another. Also, we went out, it was general fund bonding, and we have a road budget of $2.5 million. So what we said was we were going to take $600,000 of that $2.5 million, and we were going to put that into this utility, because it's a necessary infrastructure. And we take that over 30 years to pay that off. Now, if the services do well and our take rates are doing great, we're at 80% in one neighborhood, 55% in the second neighborhood that we're building, and we're over 50% in the other two neighborhoods that we're building right at the moment also. So I think we're going to be able to pay that back, but whether we can or not, we took that money out of our road budget, and we said that it's necessary infrastructure. That's probably something that needs to be said for everyone, that this infrastructure is necessary. It's not, it's like a road, it's like a sewer. It's not just something that we want to put in, we need it. And everyone knows that we need it, and it's not being done, so it should be looked at as a necessity. We entered into these contracts, so the city passed the ordinances to allow us to go into the contracts. So we did a construction contract with our prime contractor. We did an operations, maintenance, and management contract with that same partner. And then we entered into an agreement with an ISP. So the idea was that the city would not have to have employees to run the ISP. We would have someone that could handle the data center for us. And what we found was, and I'm sure a lot of you that are municipalities or government operators, you know your residents, you know your people better than they do. You know the customer service that you need to give to them. So what ended up happening is we after 9 months, it didn't work out. So the city of Fairlawn is now the service provider. We handle the data center. I've hired 2 consultants, one to handle the technical side, one to help with the customer relations side. But that was our initial plan, was to have an ISP come in and help us. So to build this, we're 100% underground, 100% build past every home and business. The data center is within my department, so I have a large service center that we put the data center in. We were able to build that inside. We use Juniper gear and Calyx gear inside our data center, and the room is probably 40 by 40, and the area that we're using probably doesn't take up much more than a 10 by 10 area. The network passes every resident and business. So really, to explain the differences, the unique differences between the city and what's going on out there, we're paying to go all the way to the resident's house to the ONT that we stick inside the home. We do that 100%. And for the businesses, we go all the way to the business, and we go inside their telecom room, we go to the DMARC, and then from the DMARC, the businesses have to pay to go to each room. And, you know, obviously some of these buildings, it's one business inside the building, so easy to just take it to them, and then they're really not paying anything. Others, multi-tenants, there is a cost to go to the tenants. We have, in Fairlawn, our businesses are, we do not allow any more than a 4-story building. So what we've told everyone is it'd be less than $500 for us to install to your suite. The city provides the ONT. We also do it to for the small businesses. They get an ONT, and that ONT, what it allows us is to get into, it's called CC+, allows us to get in and manage that network for the business. We have not made the Wi-Fi go around the town other than what I said earlier is that point-to-point link. Something I didn't say about our service, the service is always a symmetrical service, whether it's wireless or whether we build that, and whatever services we give are symmetrical. We build it as a big bang, so that big bang, we're going to pass every home, every resident. We're going to do it all at once, and we're doing the 5 square miles, which ends up to be somewhere around 300,000 feet of fiber in the ground. We're doing that in 1 year, and that's our thought was we're going to treat businesses and residential the same, so let's just build the entire city at one time and not build piece after piece. I think the things that most of you understand is it's less expensive once the crews are marshaled into your town to do that work. They're already here. If you do piece by piece, it gets to be quite expensive as time goes. And if you do piece by piece, there's always that issue down the road where maybe your gear doesn't always handle everything that you're putting out there. And then obviously the engineering also needs to go along with that. The network was divided into 12 distribution areas. So it was a new idea. And what we wanted to approach our residents with is every one of those distribution areas, as soon as they were built and lit, we wanted to give service off of them. That's a new idea. Most people don't get that idea because that's not how it's built in telecom. Telecom builds an entire city and then they turn up service. We're not doing that. We're building a neighborhood, then turning up service. And we allowed the engineers to decide which way to build it. We didn't look at this as we were going to go around and ask for where the biggest take rate was at. Because we were going to build the entire city as one big bang, there was no reason to go out there and try to find out where everyone wanted it. Now, obviously, we did a lot of surveys to get to the point where we knew that this was a viable project, but we didn't build it by neighborhood exposure. But what we found was the first neighborhood we went to, we had an 80% take rate. So we picked the right neighborhood either way. Here's just our residential service package. So we have a gig at $75. Premium is the 150 by 150. That's $55. And then we call the 30 by 30, which in a lot of places would be the best internet you could come up with. We call that the lifeline. And the way that we sell that to our residents is if you just want to check email, you might want to go to the 30 by 30. But if you want any more than that, if you want to stream TV, you certainly need to go to the 150 by 150. Small business package. So our small business area, I went to dinner last night in Breckenridge, and our small business area is somewhat similar to that it's a lot of little shops, and how that was serviced was residential. So they were serviced by coax, they're on residential packages. So we went in with these great business packages, and all of them said, number one, it's too expensive, and why do I need all that? And what's it going to do for my business if I jump onto this expensive package? Because residential, they were paying $50 to $100, and we were going in with these packages of $500 for a gig. So we put together this small business package, which allows one phone line, 500 by 500 service. We do it by GPON, so it looks like a residential package. We do not allow static IPs, and now we're able to compete with those residential packages, and this has really taken over for our small businesses. And we treat the SLA just like we would treat the residential SLA, and everyone understands that because that's how they're treated now. And I'd be willing to bet that a lot of your businesses are treated as residential also. So our enterprise services, here's just a small peek at what we have. We have 1 gig for $500, 10 gig for $1,500, and this is just a sample. You're more than welcome to look at FairlawnGig.net, and it will give you all of our pricing package. We have other options for businesses like 100 by 100 or 250 by 250. We do have a layer 2 transport, and that we have quite a few businesses in our town that have different areas that they may be in one office building and a mile away in another office building, and we connect for them in a Metro Ethernet fashion. So I think this is what we were all here to really learn from me, long and drawn out. But here are some of the changes that we think that we did that aren't out there. Our vision and the way that we financed it. The city running the ISP directly, I think that is a new take. And running that ISP, we had to go from the very beginning on up. We didn't have a billing because we don't have our own water. We don't manage our own sanitary sewer. Our tax department, they take in taxes, but we don't bill anything really out of that. It's really a letter that we write. So we didn't have a back office, so we had to create that back office to bill. So we have the billing, the idea of having a wireless project. That wireless project in the very beginning when we started coming up with this idea, we thought, well, we'll do wireless all through the city and backfeed that with fiber. Well, I think most of you in this room, I wasn't smart enough to figure it out, but most of you know you need fiber to backhaul, and so fiber is what we built first. So we are building fiber, and there will be a wireless piece behind that. The open network, there's a lot of talk about open network. We have no wholesalers at the moment. We built a network that is overbuilt with the idea, again, that kind of better idea than ODOT has for building roads. We tried to do the same thing with this engineering. Our main trunk is 432 pair. That's in our core ring. The smallest that we have is 96 pair, and that's just going to cul-de-sac roads. So we built it with the idea that we could do some wholesalers and hope that we could get some of them on to help us out. So the unique ideas, no taxes. So we didn't tax for this. We don't assess for it either. So we got this out of general fund. We're hoping that the maintenance and the upgrades are taken care of by service. It goes to, it'll be the next slide, but it goes to that whole ROI theory that's out there. The idea that, most of the time people will say they don't need a gig. Once they have it, they need it. So I think it's funny to hear they don't need a gig. Once they're able to afford it, once they have it, they need it. So we are providing that, and that's the first thing that we say to anyone that we're trying to sell service to. Here is our gig package, and we have a good enough infrastructure that we can support a gig all the time. The Big Bang Theory, the idea of fixed wireless, those were all new ideas that we put together, and the idea of being able to do this during the construction. That was unheard of, and still probably a little unheard of. This talks about the fixed wireless. We have around 30 customers right now that we're doing fixed wireless to. So, really that's what's important about it is you have a tool to sell service to someone that's going off a contract. The last thing you want is to try to sell service to someone that's already into a 5-year contract. So ROI, I generally like to talk about ROI quite a bit because ROI industry-wide, it's become, I think, a little funny to hear municipalities talk about ROI. We build parks, we build roads, we build sewers, we build all this infrastructure, and we've never once talked about ROI. And now, this fiber optic giving internet service, we're all talking about ROI. We never talked about ROI anymore. So the ROI, in my mind, is you're keeping your residents happy. You're bringing in new business. You're keeping the business that exists. You're giving those businesses an opportunity to expand on what they're doing. You're bringing in more home businesses. That's what we've seen a big surge is all these people that are taking a gig inside their home. Why? Because they have a home business and they weren't able to operate the same way before. And the soft costs. So the soft costs to the city are taxes. All cities want taxes. If we're able to keep everyone happy at a low cost, we can keep the tax level up. And that's really what matters to all of us. So the ROI at the end of the day is that you're raising your community and you're getting those taxes. The return on investment for the city of Fairlawn is just that. We're not looking to pay off that infrastructure from these services or in this build. It's not even factored in, and that was very difficult for me to make the mayor and council to understand. But now that they understand it, the things that have moved into our area have been fantastic, and it's all small businesses. Apple's not moving to Fairlawn, we know that. But the law firm that comes in that is paying a really good tax rate for each attorney is coming in. The CPAs are coming into town because they know that they can work off of our system. So that's something that I think everyone in here should take a step back and think about. When you say ROI, what do you really mean by ROI? Because in Fairlawn, we don't look at it the same way that everyone else does. And then another thing that I've heard quite a bit is about right-of-way. So right-of-way, how hard it is to work with everyone in right-of-way. I said it earlier, but I'd just like to restate it for anyone that's building. The right-of-way, most cities, most municipalities own that right-of-way. So you should be able to work with the right person. But if you work with the economic development person right away, he now has to work with the service department or engineering for that right-of-way. So before you go in, that's something that I think everyone should think about just looking at. And the last thing is, I'd just like to talk about one great case that just before I came here, I had a phone call from a doctor out of Arizona. And this doctor said he was going to move his entire business to Fairlawn. And his idea is he's going to set up shop, and he's actually going to be in a location right next door to my service department. And he's going to bring in 3 nurses, and he's going to do knee surgeries in the home. And they're going to come to your home, and they're going to sterilize your bedroom. They're going to put the probes on your knee. They're going to do the arthroscopic surgery right then and there. because we have a fiber network good enough to make this happen, that he can do this all by computer, sitting in his own bed if he wanted to. And now insurance companies don't have these costs of someone being in a hospital. I didn't even know this stuff was even possible, but think about what else we could do if you can do that. I mean, doctors are going to go crazy over this. So I think, Chattanooga had a lot of good things to say about their medical area. We're very strong in medical area also, and I think this is a real start to it. So the last slide is, we have on our internet is an Ask Ernie. And that Ask Ernie, our residents and businesses can send in questions to me all the time, and I answer them in live time and try to make the process all work smooth. So I guess that's my entire presentation, but love to take some questions if anyone has any.
Sure. My name is Margaret Compost, and I'm with ReadyNet. What's the name of your knock?
Our knock is Fujitsu's knock out of Richardson, Texas. Okay. So we do use their knock. They're the operator and maintainer for us. So they take care of all of our services. We provision through them. Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Morning, Doug.
Hey, listen, you went real quick past.
By the way, this is an Ohio guy right here.
That's
so
right.
So we're together on this.
Yeah, bit of a softball. You skipped past pretty quick your garbage compacting thing, and I visited, and I found that's an interesting way of you connecting with residents. And I don't know if everybody picked up on that. When 75% of residents come to your location every week, you don't have the same disconnect between city and residents. And I wonder if you can speak to just how you've managed to communicate with your residents and keep them aware of this so you don't have the same kind of nervousness amongst the community.
Our compactor, it's a free service. That's the other thing about it. The city takes on the cost for hauling away the trash, maintaining the facility. 75% of the residents, as Doug's saying, they come there for recycling and disposal of trash. So we were able to do surveys right there. So, and coming out of those surveys, what we found was we needed to get more education out to our residents about just the city in general. So we put up these message areas where people could take flyers out to explain. So now on a weekly basis, there's a letter that comes from Ernie, and it explains where we're at in the process of building this network. But the real key was it was a place that we could get survey information. So we did a survey over Thanksgiving. I hired 4 interns to sit at the compactor. The compactor's open 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we hired 2 interns to sit there on chairs and just ask 3 simple questions. And basically the 3 questions were, are you happy with the current provider or current service that you have? Would you want something better? And what ideas do you have about your town? And coming out of those, we had over 90% of the people say, we're not happy with what we have. Now, this was just the residential. We didn't do that with the business. We went out and met with the business. We spoke at chamber meetings, and so the compactor was really necessary for the residents. By the way, compactor is now at about 84% because we've been tying the compactor and this fiber project together. But it was a great way for us to reach out to the residents. We also put door hangers out on a regular basis. So again, I'm the service director, so I get the opportunity to use my guys. So I have mechanics going out putting door hangers on doors. I have road guys doing the same thing. The idea is just to get that communication out, and that's the whole part of a website and transparency in government. Just getting out information is what I think all our residents want.
Hi, I'm over here, Ernie, to your right.
Oh,
Doug Adams, former Hudson, Ohio resident who came to Colorado and never went back. So good luck with your
Sounds
son.
like my son.
Yeah. When you think about the ROI and possibly expanding into Akron, does that does that change the way you look at ROI? Because we talked on the phone about a month ago, and you said that you may expand into Akron or surrounding areas because you're so close in proximity. Does that change your perspective as far as ROI because it's not directly benefiting Fairlawn?
How we see expansion, and we're in negotiations with many people. When I started building this project, I made a promise to council, to the mayor, that we would build Fairlawn first. Bad thing is, in that promise, it was great for our residents, it was great for the mayor, great for council. But for me, it was hard because there's business right against us that are begging for it, and we can't build to them. So we're getting calls on a regular basis from people right next door. The project looks like it's probably going to be done sometime this summer. So we intend this fall to expand. So the expansion that Doug's talking about is we would probably go into Akron. We have a county next to us, Medina County, that we'd probably enter into an agreement with them. Copley and Bath are townships around us. We can foresee that we would expand into them very easily. By the way, right now we have more than 2,000 sign-ups. And in that 2,000 signups, I can tell you that we have a grand total of 4,100 premise. So we're at 50% just in signups right now. And then we have another 500 signups outside of the area. So that's why expanding outside the area would be so important. The expansion, the way that we see it, is we would ask the cities to do the build. So they would pay for the build. Either they would pay us or they would pay to have it built on their own. And we would be the services riding on that. We built the NOC, our data center, with the idea that we could expand outside of it. We could take in 200,000 customers if we needed to. So that's how we see the expansion for us. But we're not sure that that's really going to happen that way. So right now, we're in the middle of figuring out what that ROI for the city is outside of it. Because I do believe outside of the city, there is an ROI that, for my people, I have to maintain. Inside the city, I don't need that ROI because I'm after taxes for the city of Fairlawn.
Hi there. David Hauser with Eric's Broadband, and also on the steering committee of Golden, Colorado, doing a fiber to the home project. Curious, how many residents in Fairlawn, and what was your total cost for build?
So it's 7,500 residents, and there's 800 businesses. That probably needs to be said also, within the city in Jed. And the total build it's a $10 million build, and in that $10 million build, we're building the wireless. We have our own data center. Obviously, everyone knows the data center is expensive. Really, that's probably what holds a lot of people back, is having their own data center, which I think, one special thing that Fairlawn could do is we could ride on transport to someone, and we could service areas. So if a city 40 miles away from us was interested in having a fiber to the home project, if they build, we could be the service. But at the end of the day, and that's, it was a good contract for the city, good contract for Fujitsu. It's basically a lump sum build and lump sum price to build the project, and that's really how we've worked it out. Go ahead.
Great. I had just one other question. I was curious, you mentioned an issue with the ISP you had worked with. Just kind of curious if you could talk through what issues you guys had, what lessons you learned from that.
Yeah, it was a mutual termination, which is an odd thing to say. When you say a mutual termination, most people look at you in a funny way. But at the end of the day, it was not the customer service that my city was used to, and I had to manage that. And having an ISP come in and help you. There's good things with it. They have the experience. They understand the technical. By the way, I didn't understand the technical part of this at all, and there's still times where I don't completely understand it. But I understand construction. That's why I think it's worked out. But they were, the idea was for them to help us with the technical piece. What came out of that is we probably didn't need as much help with the technical piece. We needed more customer service. And we needed control of how that service was delivered. And if it's another business within your city, which is very complicated on its own to say that a city or any government would run a business within itself, it was very cumbersome. So at the end of the day, what made sense was we had a mutual termination, and now we are the ones running that service, and it's a little easier because we have consultants helping us out, and we did hire a few employees to help with that. The young lady at the desk is an employee. We have a couple of installers, and those installers also help troubleshoot out in the field. Morning.
Oh, it's on. Okay. Sorry about that. So my name is Steve Coran. I'm presently from the Lerman Center Law Firm in Washington, D.C., but more importantly, I'm a product of the Copley-Fairlawn School District and graduate of the Copley High School class of a long time ago.
Nice. What a small world. I've had so many people come and say, I know where Fairlawn's at.
I used to ride my bike to the mall when kids rode bikes to the mall.
Nice.
And when the mall was still a mall. But my question kind of relates to that. Are you able to do, and are you doing any sort of specialized services to larger businesses and schools and anchor institutions that require more bandwidth, or are you leaving that to, other folks? Thanks.
No, we're able to do it. Matter of fact, we're negotiating 2 10-gig deals right at the moment. So what we've done is we've put a price out there for 10 gig, but what we explained to council, and I was fortunate enough to get council and the mayor to understand that there are going to be times where we're going to need to negotiate contracts that are different than the framework of just a service. So we are negotiating 2 contracts right now with 2 large bandwidth users, really, and we have some of those big businesses within the city. We're also talking with the mall right now of bringing 10 gig into the mall and then separating that out to all of the tenants, and also running the the Wi-Fi inside the mall. By the way, the mall is still viable. Apple Store's in there, and we have some anchor institutions inside there too. So we're able to do that. And open access, one of the things that we found, most people don't want to run on our fiber right at the moment, but what they would like to do is they know that they have customers within the city, and they would like to have us do the last mile and them as a transport. So really that's a win-win for us, so we're negotiating those now. Okay, so if anyone needs anything, if you need any kind of documentation or anything, feel free to reach out to me. I have cards, and I can send that off to you. So thank you so much.